Welcome in to Greenville Grit, Greenville residents in touch on 103.7 WTIB. This is the local show that keeps you connected and in touch with the issues that affect what's happening in your community. Greenville Grit is sponsored by Ribeyes, Kid Construction, and Greenville Toyota. Now, here are your hosts for Greenville Grit, Terry Williams and Michael Overton.
Good evening and welcome to Greenville Grit. I'm Terry Williams.
I'm Michael Overton and
I'm Dennis Mitchell.
Thank you for joining in tonight to the Greenville Grit. I was talking to the crowd, Dennis, not you.
Oh.
But that's fine. It's all about Dennis. Here we go.
Always all about Dennis.
Anyway, thank you for joining us. We're glad to have you on the show tonight. We're going to get into talking about the bond discussion and the election coming up. Just a couple more days of early voting and a big election next week. Taxes. City money, fiscal responsibility, whatever you want to call it. That's what we're going to talk
Your
about.
responsibility.
What it is today.
Yeah, as of today, where we are.
Definition.
What it is today. Well, we are,
That's right.
as always, we start the show out by thanking the sponsors that allow us to be on the show. So we got to always thank the Greenville Toyota. If you're looking for a new Toyota or Scion vehicle or a new used car, please call Craig Ghost and the Greenville Toyota team at 321-3000 or visit them on the web at greenvilletoyota.com or visit them in person across from Fresh Market in Greenville. Also have Ribeyes Steakhouse. We talk about how much we love Ribeyes. And Joey Wood, the proprietor, has continued to sponsor us. So if you go to Ribeyes, you mention Greenville Grit, you get, I believe, a free dessert. There's a promotion going on right now. They've been great supporters of us.
Yes, they have.
Good steak, good salad bar. They're located on Fire Tower Road. And you got another one in Williamston.
They've been really busy.
They have. Yeah, they're doing good business there. Really good. I think he's been pretty pleased with it.
I think so.
Kid Construction Group. Green Builder. Go see their website at kcgbuildgreen.com. Kid Construction Group is owned by Bill Kidd, a personal friend of mine, and just builds a gorgeous home, a Parade of Homes winner. So check them out if you're looking for a new home or even a renovation. Lastly, the Overton Group, real estate professionals serving all of eastern North Carolina, not just Greenville but beyond. Office in Greenville and New Bern, doing business and commercial real estate leasing, residential sales, business brokerage, and property management. That's a lot to say in one breath. So we're going to take our 2-minute commercial break, come back, and we're going to get into the show.
Announcing Greenville.
Welcome back to the Greenville Grit. I am Michael Overton, along with my co-hosts. We have Terry Williams here as well as Dennis Mitchell. I think we got a big announcement there, Terry. Dennis doesn't know about this, but Dennis, you had an awakening last Wednesday after you went to a luncheon, and so I wanted to ask your opinion on the Senate race. Last week in the show, you were uncertain of what you were going to do.
I mean, yeah, I was able to go to the luncheon to hear Tom Tiller speak, and spoke with him afterwards and told him that, there's a lot of things that I disagree with him on, but his story was intriguing to me.
Yes.
I mean, somebody that grew up in the trailer park and grew up, and worked his way up to the top. And to be elected for 4 years and 2 years later, your people having that much faith in you to throw you in that leadership role, that said a lot to me. And I told him that he might have my vote, that he will have my vote.
Yay.
All right,
I
Dennis,
like this.
that's
I'm
awesome,
liking this even better.
I know.
That's great.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm sick. I'm sick and tired of these ads.
I am too. There's some new ads that are
they're getting worse
really
and worse and worse. And you're trying to tie a man into Trayvon Martin.
I know.
I mean, I
couldn't believe that.
A little bit on the desperate side there. And it's sad that, race baiting, whatever you want to call it, is unnecessary and sad and plays on people's emotions. And I think it's low in any politician from either side of the party, whatever party they're in, goes to that level.
Well, I think it's just sad that she can't win her re-election on the truth, because the truth for her is not pretty. She hasn't accomplished a lot of things. I heard the new ad with her saying what she did about Elizabeth Dole during that debate. That's just come on this week that I've seen it. And it sounds like a repeat of her own progress, which is zero to me.
But I mean, the problem with the race baiting to me is that you don't have a leg to stand on in the African American community yourself.
Right.
I mean, what have you done to help move forward those issues that are critical to the African American community? It's one thing to say, I voted yes on this and yes on that, but what have you sponsored and led to?
But if you try to scare the African American community into voting for you over your opponent, that obviously shows that you haven't done anything for the community.
I mean, because she tried to paint herself as this moderate, really conservative Democrat,
Right.
you know. So, I mean, say what you really mean, because I don't think she's done a lot to help progress the African community. When I say the African American community, I'm talking about those ones that are poor and disenfranchised.
Right.
So, I mean, to get out there and try to charge people out of race, I think that's a little going below the belt.
Well, I went through the line yesterday. I don't know if you voted yet.
Going today.
It took about 20 minutes. There's
Yeah,
a lot of people there.
voting.
The turnout's really good.
It's a good sign. I mean, they
So
need to get out and
hopefully-
exercise their
Yeah.
right. They
Yep.
need to do that.
So I know Lee Teague sponsored him. I think he came on the show one time and
He did.
got his sign in my yard. So we definitely threw the vote for him. And Brian Brown, big supporter. I mean, I think some of the ones we threw out last week. But I'm not sure how much we're going to talk about this election. When is early voting in?
I believe it's Saturday, 1 o'clock, and then picks back up on Election Day, Tuesday.
Okay. Wow.
So they have a
Just
little
few
bit of
days-
time left.
Few more
It's
days of
getting away
ads,
from you,
everyone,
so-
and it's over. We don't have to
Yeah.
watch them anymore.
I know.
But
That's
Dennis,
right.
your favorite thing, I'm going to let you take the floor this time, is talking about city politics.
Absolutely. Our esteemed Mayor Pro Tem had hosted his town hall meeting. Take it for wherever you were. If he hosted it in the black community, there is some talk among some black leaders in the community wondering why that he done that in the African American community when he's been absent for the last 8 or so years. But of course, in my opinion, it's race pondering, race
Right.
dating as well, preparing for whatever his next move is. The turnout, I mean, there wasn't even a lot of African Americans there. It was the same old crowd, the same old core, common, whatever crowd that followed him there. But one thing that struck out is his tone afterwards in his newsletter. It seems like he's flip-flopping or turning the cord. And if you don't pay attention to his wordage,
Right.
you won't realize that what he's doing is trying to prepare the voters for what's about to happen. We all know we've been talking on here for a while about the tax increase that was unnecessary.
Right.
Well, it comes to find out that after the audit, it was very unnecessary.
Exactly.
They're going to have a surplus of $2.7 million, which the tax increase, I think, was over 2 years, ended up being like $2.2 million. So you not only did not need to increase taxes if you wouldn't have, you probably had an extra $500,000 anyway.
Exactly.
So he's alluding to the fact that they can go back and repeal the tax cut for the next year to save $600,000. He's
Well,
also,
and one of the things that they're trying to say that one of the tax increases that provided $600,000 said the second penny of the tax recovered $600,000 of lost revenue. We had not lost the revenue yet.
No, we had not yet.
So that's wrong to say that.
Absolutely, and everything. And one thing we don't take account for a lot is when we talk about a budget is the growth. Greenville experiences at least a 2% growth each year. But like I said, if they would have went through the budget process in more detail the way we would have, they would have known some of these things. They would have known there was no need to cut the taxes. I mean, to increase the taxes. But one thing he's also saying, if you read in there, he talks about we have money to do capital expenditures. Excess fund balance over 14%. We can do capital expenditures. That's the same thing they used that election rhetoric against us for what we did.
Right.
We had excess fund balance, and we went and did capital expenditures. So his tone is changing. It's different now that you got some money, Calvin Mercer, and you're trying to look at what kind of projects you can spend on. But we have maintenance issues with the city. To me, you don't have extra money. You never funded your roads up to $2.5 million like you were supposed to. And we're talking about floating a bond. You don't have extra money. We can
right.
float our bond and not increase taxes with the citizens. That's what this shows right now.
Exactly. That's exactly right. Well, I think the whole flip-flopping thing is what's bothering me, too. They jumped the gun and made the decision to increase this tax without doing their homework. Now the homework's been done for them, and now they're having to read it and realize that they made a big mistake with the tax increase.
Via the same auditor
Yeah.
that they have
Doesn't
been
make
saying
any
the
sense
entire
to me.
time that be careful about drawing down your fund balance. I mean, that's all we've continued to hear.
Well,
So
That has just been a big issue.
I don't even know where to go.
But
with
I
it.
mean, a couple things there. He admitted that it's 14%, and anything over that 14% is excess money that can be used for capital expenditures.
And so, again, going back for people who aren't completely abreast of everything we're discussing, 14% is what the city, as our own policy, requires our fund balance to be. 7%, I think, or 8% is what the state asks us to be. So we're significantly higher than what the state requires. And when we keep hearing of warnings of drawing, the previous council drew down the fund balance to dangerously low levels,
Which was 14%.
which is down to 14%, which is
What it was
significantly higher
budgeted.
than what the state is. It's still above our policy. You essentially took a fund balance that I think was closer to 20%, drew it down to 14, took $4.5 million out of that, and dedicated to repairing the roads. Is that Right.
That's absolutely right. I mean, when you do your budget, you budget for 14%. So everything that comes above that 14% is surplus income.
That's right.
And you use that in times like these when you have so many outstanding maintenance issues to take care of those,
exactly.
which councils that Calvin Mercer has been a part of and been in a leadership role have not done.
That's right.
So, I mean, and that's what we did. And now he's saying now that he has this $2.7 million surplus that they created by taxes to citizens as a slush fund. It looks like that's what he's alluding to, the fact that we got projects we can spend on.
Well, I tell you, the Daily Reflector put it out there, and I read the hour reviews, and I was shocked by it, calling him out like that.
I'm shocked too. I mean, because a couple months ago, they were beating the same drum he was, just regurgitating information that came out of his newsletter. So I'm glad to see that someone did their homework and realized that. And you got to go back, take this into the context of everything we were talking about. You have you got a projected $2.7 million surplus based off these tax increases. You got the extra $3 million in the fund balance, the extra money in the healthcare fund. I mean, there's a lot of additional money just sitting there passively, and we're not taking care of these projects that need to be. We do. Even if we pass this bond that we probably talk about a little bit later, even if we pass this bond, it should not yield a tax increase for our citizens.
Well, it didn't in 2004. They were able to, make the payments or whatever, pay back that without a tax increase in 2004 because, the revenues increased.
I mean,
the city.
You're just trying to see what the focus of this council is. It's not on the budget. It's not on economic development. I mean, what is their focus? What is their vision? What is their drive?
In my opinion, if I had to say it, I think preserving cash.
Yeah.
Well, you can have all the money in the bank you want to, but if you're still falling apart, I mean, it's going to cost you more money in the long run.
But how much cash are we going to preserve, and when does it stop? And is that the role of a city government, is to be a bank?
Absolutely not. You don't tax your citizens to save their money. They can put the money back in their pockets and save it or use it on things they need to take care of.
The sad thing is, and you're exactly right, you don't tax the citizens to save money. Part of my frustration about this entire bond process is that we're even having to have a discussion about spending $10.5 million on roads when all I've been hearing, newsletter after newsletter after newsletter, is how previous councils have done such a fantastic job of being fiscally responsible. It goes back to fiscal irresponsibility. You're hoarding the cash. You're not spending it on the infrastructure. And because you didn't spend it on the infrastructure, now we're having to pass a $10.5 million bond just on the roads to repair roads that you didn't fund to begin with.
Absolutely. Right. And he's trying to blame it on good management. And, with all due respect, is to be out there smiling about that you have a $2.7 million surplus that you overtax the citizens on is not good management.
But again, that goes back. You're saying, and tell me if I'm wrong with this, it's not a $2.7 million surplus because we overtaxed the citizens, because we've never gotten the money from the citizens because the tax increase just went into place.
Yes.
This 2.7 came from before the tax increase. Is that not right? We just passed the tax increase in June, July.
No, I think this is the projected.
Or this is what they're projecting?
This is what's going to be projected at the end of their 2-year budget they just passed.
Let me just say this now. Auditors' responsibility is always on the side of caution. So I understand coming from what they're saying about, be cautious, watch what you're doing. I understand all of that. What bothers me is that Calvin Mercer tries to put the fear in everybody. Instead of the facts, he always tries to scare you and instead of giving you the correct information. And that's what bothers me so much about the way he presents everything, especially in his newsletter. I think he doesn't give the facts like they really are. He doesn't word them correctly.
And we might have to go back and read it. I mean, you can read this newsletter either way. I mean, it could read that it's $2.7 million at the end of June 2014. It could read as it's.
Well, that's what I guess I'm having a hard time figuring out.
In a 2.7.
Was this an audit based on current numbers, or is this a I understand an audit is not a projection. An audit is an audit based on your actual numbers.
Based on what you actually have
That's how
right
I
there.
understand it. And I could be completely wrong here, and if whoever's listening, I'm sorry if I am, but based on my reading of the paper, based on what I understand that an audit is for, is they come in and audit your books on your actual income and expenditures.
You're right, because it said the second penny of the tax increase recovered, ED.
Yes.
So you're absolutely right. This is what happened at the end of 2014.
So they're saying that the 2 cent recovered it. We haven't recovered it with the 2 cent. That is additional money.
Wow.
How
That's
I
right.
understand it, on top of the $2 million that they've already brought in. Again, if I'm wrong, I'm sorry, but that's how I read between both the Daily Reflector and his newsletter.
You're absolutely right.
So we're hoarding cash. I'm sorry, we're hoarding cash. And we're going to ask
And then
everyone
we're
that's
gonna ask-
listening to go
Exactly.
and vote on a bond next November. And so hopefully we'll have a better idea. I know we're a long ways away from that, a year, 12 months away from actually having to cast that vote. But daggone, we better have some pretty good reasons why we need to ask people to vote for additional tax increases.
Well, we can vote for the bond. The bond doesn't necessarily mean we'll have a tax increase. What I'm saying is it's just like in 2004 that we might have to have a tax increase. And, of course, when they vote, they're voting, okay, if you do, you do. But there's a possibility, and even looking at these figures, that they won't need a tax increase.
I don't agree with you, Terry. I think this council errs on the side of
I'm sure they probably do. But I'm just saying that's how it was set up. That's how it was passed in 2004. And that is, you can ask Bernita. She would say, we don't know that we'll have to have it, but we have to vote it as if we're going to have it.
But the thing is, and we had a big meeting last night, Uptown Greenville, the state of Uptown, and you got all these great things happening in the city, and I like to attribute in part to the council that I was on. And if you had a council whose vision was aligned with economic development and real financial responsibility, imagine how much more we can do in the city. Imagine how much more we can do in the city. And I think it's regressive at this time to have a council that doesn't seem to be in touch with what's going on with the budget process in this time that we're trying to grow our city.
Well, I think that's called something that's called leading from behind.
Right. Well, I think, looking at the bond, I think we really have no choice. We need to put it out there to the citizens with all the homework that we all have done, the whole entire committee, to show them what needs to be done and what we're looking forward to in economic development, not just maintenance things that we think are maintenance things, and show them. And then, because if we don't put forth a bond, this city council isn't going to go forward on anything. They're not going to get. This is the only way that we're going to show some progress with this particular city council, is to give the citizens a voice and tell them this is, based on the work that we've done, and hopefully with the advocacy committee, I cannot say that word very good, that they'll be able to explain it even more to the public about why it's necessary, and then and that will be divided up into different items that the citizens can pass one, all, none. They'll have a chance to, if they only want to do roads, if they don't want to do the economic development project that we think is, a good idea, they'll have the opportunity to vote on that. If you leave it up to this city council, we won't get anything done.
Yeah, they're not going to make a decision. They're not going to show leadership our vision. They kicked the bond committee to this unprecedented committee that we're on right now, which was a good thing because I think we're coming out with some very good things.
Been great.
Economic development wasn't even included in their bond package, so I think we're coming up with some good things, but they're unwilling to make a difficult decision because it's worrying about how it's going to play politically in the eyes of the public.
Exactly. They're thinking too much about re-election instead of doing what's good for the city at the time and at the moment.
Speaking of that, then let's go back to one of the other letters and surprisingly seeing a discussion of turning terms to 4 years.
What are you talking about?
Calvin Mercer in one of his previous letters.
That's right.
Had sent an email saying we want to start having public's opinion of whether the term should be moved from 2 years to 4 years.
I can't imagine a do-nothing city council for 4 years in a row. Where will we be?
Yeah, I think it's something that needs to be talked about, but I think at this time with the mood that's set by this previous council, I can't even think about it, because I'm thinking fearfully of what will it be like with this council for another 4 years.
Well, I'm coming out saying term limits. Absolute term limits.
I agree with you on term limits.
Yep,
I do.
I do too.
It needs to be, in my opinion, absolute most 8 years. You've served your city. You've served your time. You're getting on the edge, and when it becomes self-serving, and that being in it that long, I think you got to go after that amount of time.
That's crazy. I agree with that.
Well, let's take our second commercial break. It's been interesting so far. We'll finish up in the last 5-6 minutes of the show, and we will be back in 2 minutes.
A new era.
Welcome back to the Greenville Grit. We're in the bottom portion of our show, and we've been having a lot of discussion about some issues facing the city.
Right.
Of course, the need, as we've been saying over and over, there was never a need to raise taxes, and how does council act prematurely on that. But just going to talk about a little bit more about what transpired last night at the state of the city or
state of the district.
State of the district, the Uptown district. It was an amazing event. I think we all had almost 200 people there. It was really and that showed you that all those people there had a hand in helping what's transpired downtown. And a lot of people like to say that why are we spending so much money downtown? And we had a professor from ECU talk about how density has an impact on tax values.
Right.
And because the area is so dense, you're getting about $1 million per acre return on tax value, as opposed to the average in the city of Greenville of about $600,000 per acre. So the more money, the more investment, private and public, that we have in downtown, the greater the return is going to be, about $400,000, and it's only going to increase.
That's right.
You have the Tom Taft project. They were one of the people who got an award last night, I think, Urbanist of the Year, by bringing that mixed-use development downtown. The Scullery, we all know about them. It's a great place to eat breakfast. People go in and coffee, lunch.
That's
you know, small business. The Governor Perdue awarded them the award from the Redevelopment Commission, the small business grant that they got when we were on the Redevelopment Commission. They got an award for Small Business of the Year. And Don Edwards, you know, Lifetime Achievement Award.
Right.
This process actually started as him was one of the fathers of it, you know, in 1984, of having the vision to start the group that we know now as Uptown Greenville.
And he's got to be proud of it. 30 years he's worked.
Oh yeah,
That's
opening
right.
up that Evans Street back up, and sometimes putting his money where his mouth is, going along on some investments. So he actually started planting some seeds there. But just looking at the entire Uptown district and how these projects coming into play, the super block that was redone, that was all nightclubs. Community Smith is also doing some projects on Dickinson Avenue. You got the Go Science Center that's about to come up on Dickinson Avenue that I asked to talk about in the bond committee. So we're just seeing this amazing thing that happened downtown and this continuing investment. And we really believe that the private industry is going to start stepping up a lot more.
That's right.
Because they see that return on investment.
Well, Dennis, you have to remember, too, that so much of what's happening now we're seeing the results of started with that 2004 bond. It started with the redevelopment of the Center City and West Greenville. And now, and I think that's what's happened. It's for so long, as hard as Don tried, and he did accomplish some things, it took a long time to get it going. And then the Redevelopment Commission, you know, starting some things. And I mean, we've been involved in all of that, the Go Science, the whole, everything for so long, but it's taken this long to start seeing the results. I think that a lot of the focus can be shifted to other parts of the city now that we're seeing results. But I think that that's even the more important to look at another bond and what a new bond can do for not just finishing some things in the Uptown area, but doing things across the city that we see need to be done.
And he really showed this 3D map that showed you the property values, and it was like it raised in red how high the property value was. And what he talked about is that we got different nodes throughout the city where the density is high. You know, Greenville Boulevard, Fire Tower Road,
parts of Memorial
Drive, 10th Street.
That's
Those
right.
are areas where investors can really look at to start to increase the value of it. And because you know what the property values are, certain type of developments are going to go there. Like a Fire Tower Road, you're going to have a higher class worth of development properties go over there. And same thing as Greenville Boulevard, where we have Galleria at. So, I mean, there's a lot of amazing things going on in this city. I think people are starting to get excited about it. We just wish we had a city council that was on board with it as far as the vision.
I agree with that.
I think one of the things I'd like to see too, and it's not really being discussed in the bond, is I know that retail is great. It gives people options and it does provide jobs. But my argument is those jobs are sometimes $8 to $10 to $12 hour jobs. I want to see the $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 a year jobs.
That's right.
And as a city, I don't think the bond is going to have that long-term investment vision in it, but the city council in doing their job needs to be looking that far down the road. I'm a big supporter of the medical tech park. As a matter of fact, I was at a committee of 100 meeting yesterday and heard the one of the head guys at Maine Pharma in town and talk about how many people that they've got working for them and seeing the type of money that they're spending. That's such a huge industry, and we've got Vidant here, and we got the hospital, we got the medical school, we've got Maine Pharma, we got Pantheon here, and so we need to be creating an area to continue to recruit these jobs.
Right.
And it's not going to happen overnight. It might take 5 or 10 years to bring some of these companies in, but if they can increase the job base to 50, 60, 70,000 a year people, that's what builds the economy in this city. But we've got to look down the road on this. And I understand, again, the bond is more short-term things that can bring immediate impact to the city. But I challenge the city council, you got to start looking down the road.
That's right.
Where are we going to invest some of this extra money over
That's
our
where they
finance?
should be looking. What we can't include in the bond, they should take these extra funds and look at doing some additional things. That's what they'll have to do with it.
Chairman, what do you think?
I mean, actually, that's what they should do. But it's also look at it that if we can, there's some way we can pass this bond without doing a tax increase for the citizens. I think that'd be great. I mean, I think it's politically now on them to go back and repeal the tax cut. I mean, that's something political.
Right.
It's not because that's what they want to do, or they think that the citizens go, oh, we decrease taxes. No, you didn't have to raise taxes in the first place.
Right.
So instead of going to the citizens and say, we're going to repeal this tax cut, now we're going to come back to you to ask you to give it back, that makes no sense to me.
I agree with that.
Well, as always,
No
having
doubt.
Dennis on makes the show rather spirited. So thank you for coming back on today, and thank you for joining in. You can catch us again on Friday night at 6:30, as well as Saturday morning at 9:30 on Cable
That's right.
7. Again, got to thank the sponsors: Kidd Construction Group, KCGBillGreen.com. Got Greenville Toyota, the Overton Group, and Ribeye Steakhouse. Mention Greenville Grit, and you get a free dessert.
Right.
Thank you for joining us. We will see you next Wednesday.